fact about life. He said, وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ وَنَقْصٍ مِّنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَنفُسِ وَالثَّمَرَاتِ وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ. And I am sure the majority of you are familiar with this ayah and know about this ayah. In this ayah, Allah Azza wa Jal began with a promise and a guaranteed certain fact. He said, وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ, we will surely, no doubt about it, test you all. The question is, why is Allah informing us of this matter? Why is He telling us that He will test us? The simple answer is so that when the tests of life strike us, we are prepared and we are ready for them. I give you an example. I'm a teacher. If I entered into the classroom and all of a sudden I said to the students, close your books, move them away, and I'm going to examine you right now, all the students will be in shock and in panic. You never informed us that we have an exam. So they're not prepared, they're not ready. But imagine as a teacher, I entered the classroom and I said to the students, next week I am going to examine you on this matter. So next week comes and I say to them, close your books, here's the examination sheets. No one is in a state of shock and panic. Why? Because they're all prepared. I've already told them a week ago. And to Allah belongs the highest of examples. When Allah Azza wa Jal revealed in the Quran 1,400 years ago, saying, وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ, we're going to test you all. That means when the tests of life and the calamities of life strike us, we should not be in a state of shock and panic. The only one who's in a state of shock and panic is the one who doesn't read the Quran, is the one who doesn't read the promises of Allah and is far away from the Quran. As for the one who reads the Quran, he's prepared, he's ready, because his Lord said, I will test you. So when the test comes, isn't this what Allah already promised? Why are you shocked? Why are you in panic? Allah Azza wa Jal said, وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ. Look at the mercy of Allah when He tests us. He said, I'm going to test you all with something, a small portion. That's the mercy of Allah. When He strikes you with a calamity, when He sends a calamity away, He doesn't test you with a large portion of something that belongs to you. He tests you with something of it. بِشَيْءٍ. A minor portion of what? What does He test us through? And what does He test us with? بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ. He's going to test you all with fear, anxiety. There are 5 things. He began with this because that is the test that we experience on a daily basis. There is not a single person among us here and across the globe except that they experience moments of fear and anxiety. And we fear the future. We fear for our health, for our wealth, for our children, for our relationships. We fear for, you may have done an exam, am I going to pass, am I going to fail? These are our fears, consistent fears. And especially with this globe, this world, and the issues that happen, and the economical troubles that the world is facing, people are in more and more fear of their financial situation and so on. And this is all a test from Allah Azza wa Jal. وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ. And of course it is very clear that there are 2 powerful, effective solutions to calm down fear and anxiety in the life of believers. And they are as-salat and al-dhikr. As-salat calms down fear and anxiety like no other worship does. That's why Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam was described as كان إذا حزبه أمر فزع إلى الصلاة. Whenever Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam faced a moment of distress, a calamity, he would rush to as-salat, he'd rush to his prayer mat, Allahu Akbar, and he'll begin to converse with Allah Azza wa Jal. And that conversation with Allah settles the unsettled, panicked heart. And the best thing of as-salat is that once you go into a sujood, you are now the closest you will ever be to Allah Azza wa Jal in this worldly life. And the best part is that we are encouraged and recommended to make dua in a sujood, because the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam mentions that the dua in a sujood is accepted. Why does he tell us it's accepted? Meaning he's encouraging us, make dua. There's no point to rejoice over the hadith if you're not doing by the hadith. And the best part of a dua is that it doesn't have to be with eloquent, perfect words. That's the best part of a dua. You can say what your heart is telling you at the moment. In fact, if you said nothing, Allah knows what's in your heart. But it's the moment that you are in sujood. It is the brokenness you show Allah Azza wa Jal. It is the desperation you have in your heart for your Lord that begins to allow your anxiety and your fear to settle. And of course, al-adhkar, the dhikr of the morning and the evening, has a tremendous effect in calming our anxiety and our fears. Because the morning and evening dhikr, and perhaps most of you have never heard of this, but there is something in our religion called adhkar al-sabah wal-masa. They are like medicine. The entire message that is found in adhkar al-sabah wal-masa is the establishment of a tawheed in the life of the believer. That's its entire message. All the adhkar of the morning and the evening, its central message is La ilaha illallah. And if you are engaged with La ilaha illallah every single day, and you are saying it on your tongue in the morning and in the evening, it reminds you of your purpose. And when you know that your purpose in life is La ilaha illallah, to establish the worship of Allah, that on its own calms down the anxiety and the fear, because this heart was created for worship. Allah designed and created your heart that it craves La ilaha illallah and worship. So if you're doing what you were created for, you are fulfilling your purpose, you become peaceful and tranquil. And if you're doing other than that which you were created for, you become in panic and distress. Like a fish, it was created to be in water. If the fish was removed from its water, it begins to tremble and shake because it's outside of its environment. But the moment you put it in water, it's calm, it's not stressed, and it swims away. And just like that, the believer, if you are in the environment of worship, if your environment of worship, you'd be calm and tranquil. And if you come out of the environment of worship to disobedience, sin and rebellion, then you'll be like that fish that has been removed from water. You're outside your boundaries. So you'll tremble, you'll shake, and you'll experience fear and anxiety that is not healthy. وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ. Allah Azza wa Jal said He'll always also test us with al-ju'. Al-ju' is hunger. And there are 810 million people on earth, and the number is increasing, that are tested with poverty and hunger. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to alleviate the situation of al-ummah. But my brothers and sisters in Islam, don't for 1 second take for granted ni'matullah in front of you as you eat and as you drink. You've been eating perhaps for the last, I don't know, number of years of your life. Every day you've had a meal in front of you. That doesn't mean that tomorrow's meal is guaranteed. So appreciate Allah's blessing and continue to thank Him, because whoever thanks Allah for His provision, Allah promises that He preserves it for him and increases it. وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ وَنَقْصٍ مِّنَ الْأَمْوَالِ. Allah is going to test us with a loss of wealth. That's a test in life. You may invest your money and lose it. It's a calamity. Someone may steal your wealth. You may give a loan to someone and never see it. That's a loss of wealth. Our scholars, rahimahumullah, also mention that the taxes you pay, that is a calamity, loss of wealth. The tax that you pay, that is a calamity. نَقْصٍ مِّنَ الْأَمْوَالِ. He'll also test us with وَالْأَنفُسِ, loss of life. You will lose loved ones. Perhaps your parents, your children, your spouse, your friends, your relatives. But be prepared, be ready. Allah is already telling you in the Quran. When this time comes, don't be shocked and surprised. He already said, I'm going to test you with a loss of life. وَالثَّمَرَاتِ, and I'm going to test you with a loss of provision. Meaning, you may lose your source of income, the one and only source of income, you may lose it all. You may lose your business, you may lose your allowance, whatever the case may be. These are all the tests of life. In the end, Allah Azza wa Jalla, He said, وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ. Congratulate, give good news and glad tidings to the patient ones. You know, my brothers and sisters in Islam, what is remarkable is that the ayah began with darkness and gloominess and misery. Imagine when you read this ayah, you're going to be tested. Loss of wealth, loss of life, hunger, fee, loss of provision. And it ends with a matter that instills joy and happiness and hope in the heart of the believer. Allah said, and give good news, glad tidings to the patient ones. You know what we learn from this? Allah Azza wa Jal wants us to change the way we think and behave when we are struck by a calamity. This ayah is teaching us that don't ever see a calamity as a trouble in life. Rather see it as an opportunity to earn the rank of the sabirin, of the patient ones. And if you're recorded from among the patient ones, then congratulations, you enter the paradise with no accountability. And you're given in the paradise whatever you want without limit. إِنَّمَا يُوَفَّى الصَّابِرُونَ أَجْرَهُمْ بِغَيْرِ حِسَابٍ. So don't see the calamity as trouble and a burden. See the calamity as an opportunity to rise and elevate in the sight of Allah until you reach the level of as-sabirin. Allahu Akbar. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says that there are some people Allah has written for them a high station in the paradise, and they will never reach it with their righteous actions. No matter how much you pray and how many days you fast, you will never get there through your righteous deeds. Then the hadith said, so Allah Azza wa Jal will test them with a calamity. And because of their patience for this calamity, they get to where Allah Azza wa Jal wants them to get to in the paradise. That's what a calamity in our deed means. It's an opportunity to rise and to elevate. So that's why the worst thing you can do in a calamity is to disobey Allah and to turn away from Allah. Rather, in a calamity, the best thing would be to get closer to Allah Azza wa Jal through as-salat, wal-dhikr, wal-Qur'an, especially ad-du'a. وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ. The question is, how do we achieve patience in a moment of calamity? Next ayah says, الَّذِينَ إِذَا أَصَابَتْهُمْ مُصِيبَةٌ. Allah now is defining the patient ones. He says, the patient ones are those who, when they are struck by a calamity, they say, Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Pay attention to the first part because it's got valuable information and it sets us on a straight path to achieve patience. He said, الَّذِينَ إِذَا أَصَابَتْهُمْ مُصِيبَةٌ. Those who, when they are struck by a calamity. A calamity in the Arabic language is known as a musibah. Why was the calamity called musibah? And it's got golden information in it. Listen. Musibah comes from the word asaba. And asaba literally means to hit the target. If I had a bow and an arrow, and I focused on the target and I released the arrow and it hit the target, in Arabic we'd say asaba al-hadaf. He hit the target. A calamity was called a musibah because Allah Azza wa Jal intended you and no one else. It was custom made for you and no one else. The first step in how to achieve patience is to stop and to teach yourself that this calamity that struck you was meant for you and no one else. So stop asking, but if I did this and if I did that, had I been here, if I was to do, all of that discussion is useless and it weakens your faith in Al-Qadr. You want to achieve patience? When the calamity strikes, say Alhamdulillah. This is what Allah decreed. And it wasn't meant for anyone else. You know, recently you all of course heard of the accident that happened to our two brothers in Nigeria. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to bestow His mercy upon them. But a lot of people online began to discuss, if only they didn't go, if only they stayed here, if only he sat in the back. Useless speech. There's no such thing as he was at the wrong place at the wrong time. You are always in the right place at the right time because Allah has already decreed what He decreed and it's going to happen. How does someone dare to say, I was at the wrong place at the wrong time? Indirectly, you're accusing Allah of ignorance. So we need to be careful. You want to be from the patient ones? You need to accept whatever struck you was meant for you. And that's why Ubadah ibn Samit radiyallahu anhu, he said to his son, Ya bunay, ittaqillah. He said, my son, fear Allah. He said to him, and you will never fear Allah until you believe in Allah. And he said, you will never believe in Allah until you believe in Al-Qadr, the divine decree, the good and the bad. And then he said to him, you will never believe in the Qadr until you believe, pay attention because what's coming now is the core definition of what it means to believe in the Qadr. He said, until you believe that what struck you was never meant to miss you. And what missed you was never meant to strike you. Even that's the first thing. When a calamity happens, you say, Qaddar Allah, and put a stop to all the ifs and if and if. They just weaken your belief in Al-Qadr. The next thing you do if you want to be from the patient ones, قالوا إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. The patient ones, they say, at the strike of calamity, at the beginning, they say, indeed, to Allah we belong and to Him we shall return. My brothers and sisters in Islam, this phrase, Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un, is medicine at the time of calamity. And it was a gift to Ummatun Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. The nations before weren't taught this word at the time of calamity. Sa'id ibn Jubayr, he said, had this word, inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un, had it been legislated and revealed in previous nations, Ya'qub would have said that when he lost his son Yusuf, as opposed to saying, Ya asafa ala Yusuf, I cry my grief and sorrow for my son Yusuf. He wouldn't have said that. He would have said, inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. But it wasn't around. It was a gift for this ummah. And this word, inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un, I'll explain to you how it's medicine. It's two parts. The first part, inna lillah. The second part, ilayhi raji'un. The first part, inna lillah, believe it or not, it answers every single calamity you've gone through in your life that you never found an answer for. That's what inna lillah does. It answers every question you've ever had about any calamity that came your way. You may be sitting and saying, I'm sick. I don't understand my sickness. I seem to not find a job. I don't know why. I tried to get married. I cannot find someone suitable. I was married and we got divorced. And every time I get married, I get divorced. I don't know why. Inna lillah is the answer you've been looking for. I'll tell you how. Inna lillah means we belong to Allah. You know what that means? If you acknowledge that you belong to Allah, meaning you're His property, and Allah can do whatever He wants with His property without being questioned. I have a phone. This is my property. It belongs to me. If I now threw it and it broke, no one here has a right to object to what I did. You may say that I did something silly, something foolish. That's your judgment. But that belongs to me at the end of the day. I didn't violate anything that belongs to you, so I can do what I want with my property. But to Allah belongs the highest of examples. Whatever Allah Azza wa Jal does to you, it's because you belong to Him. You're His property. So He does what He wants, and you don't have a right to object or to ask any questions. But look at the goodness of Allah Azza wa Jal. When Allah does something to His property, when He does something to you, it's not like the silly example I gave you. If I throw my phone, that's foolish. What's the point of that? When Allah does something to you, you need to keep three things in mind. Whatever Allah does, He does it upon perfect knowledge. Whatever He does it upon perfect wisdom. And whatever He does to you, He never ever oppressed you. وَمَا رَبُّكَ بِظَلَّامٍ لِلْعَبِيدِ. And that's how saying Inna Lillah could be the medicine and the answer for every calamity you've faced. But the goodness here is that when Allah tests you with something, He tested you so He can reward you. You're the one that's going to benefit from the calamity. Allahu Akbar. وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ. The second part should excite you. So the first part, Inna Lillah, gives you an explanation as to why this has happened. The second part, إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ, cheers you up. And to Him we shall return. Why does it instill happiness? Because I'm excited to return. I want to see what reward does Allah have for me in store. Allahu Akbar. And finally, and I end with this, a beautiful hadith. Salama radiallahu anha narrates, and she says that the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, anyone who is struck by a calamity and says, Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un, Allahumma ajurni fi musibati wa akhluf li khayran minha, illa abdalahu Allahu khayran minha. Anyone who's struck with a calamity and says, Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un, oh Allah, reward me for my calamity and replace it with something better, except that Allah will replace it with something better. So Salama lost her husband Abu Salama That was a calamity. She remembered the teachings of the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and she said this dua, and Allah Azza wa Jal replaced her, or replaced Abu Salama with the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. She became the wife of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So that's it, my brothers and sisters in Islam. Any calamity you face, even if it's the tax you pay, after you pay it, say inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Allahumma ajurni fi musibati wa akhluf li khayran minha, and await and see what Allah Azza wa Jal will replace you of goodness that you never imagined. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to grant us goodness and acceptance. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een.